A very good afternoon to all. My name is Jazzy and I am from SGTech Industry Outreach Program Team. A warm welcome to our webinar on the integrated cybersecurity in a new reality, future-proofing organizations to ensure cyber resiliency. Before we start the webinar proper, allow us to share some functions of the webinar. The recording of the webinar will be available on demand in Zoom 1 day after this session. If you have any questions at any point of time, you may use the Q&A function and post in your questions. Please help us to indicate your name and company name when submitting them. We will answer the questions during the Q&A segment after all the presentations have concluded. The webinar slides will also be uploaded to our website after the session. Without further ado, I would like to invite SGTech Cybersecurity Chapter Chairman, Mr. Dutch Ng, to give his welcome address and introduction. Besides being the Cybersecurity Chapter Chairman at SGTech, Dutch is also the Deputy Chairman of Technical Work Group Member for Cybersecurity at WorldSkills Singapore. He's the co-founder and CEO of iSpoon and has been working for the company since 2000. Over the past 20 years, Dutch held senior management and executive level positions for high-tech companies and took on various challenging and operational roles with regional responsibilities. Dutch, over to you.
Thank you, Jess. Let me pull out the slide. Hello, everyone. Welcome and good afternoon to all. It's great to see you all again, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to learn more about integrated cybersecurity in new reality, future-proofing organization to ensure cyber resiliency. I'm Dutch, the chairman of SGTech Cybersecurity Chapter. In this session, IDC will be sharing their top cybersecurity prediction for 2021 that will reshape IT priorities over the next 5 years. You will also learn more about the current pain point faced by the businesses while building cyber resiliencies in the post-pandemic world and how companies can prepare for the future of advanced cyber threats and target attack from our speaker from Kaspersky. So to our old friends and existing member of SGTech, it's nice to have you with us again. To our new friends who are unfamiliar with SGTech too, let me give you some brief introduction. SGTech is a premium trade association set up to represent and champion the interests of the tech industry in Singapore. Within the rapid evolving technology landscape, SGTech strives to create an ecosystem that anticipates trends and development sustainable initiative to strengthen and grow the industry. Currently, we have more than 900 members ranging from innovative startups, vibrant and small, medium-sized enterprises to top MNC, whom we are representing and articulating any technology industry concerns to relevant authorities and stakeholders. SGTech strives to create an ecosystem that strengthens the community and help the ICT industry to grow. SGTech serves as an active voice for the tech industry by actively and responsibly advocating for change while remaining the trusted and respected partner of the government. We contribute to tech industry growth and transformation through national programs and initiatives that drive and enhance the Singapore economies. The three key roles we do as a business enabler, as a neutral platform and aggregator for the tech industry. We have various platforms that create opportunities for our member. A responsible voice. We run sessions with various government industry to provide feedback and give suggestions on how to help the industry. As industry insights, we provide knowledge and intel on updates and news so that members will be more aware of the rapid changes that adapt quickly. To coordinate the needs of subsector within the ICT space, we have formed industrial chapters and communities to support strategic and emerging sector. We have classified our chapter into tech verticals and non-tech horizontal. Under the tech verticals, we have AI, high performance computing. We have cloud and data, cybersecurity. And for the non-tech horizontal, we have digital transformation, Singapore enterprise, and smart nation. Companies that join SGTech as a member can choose which chapter they prefer to be involved in. Each chapter will plan activities, initiatives to engage their chapter members and the industry. SGTech also spin-off community that cater to emerging industrial needs. For example, 123 Jumpstart Committee cater for young startup company. Gaming and education technology are gaining traction. We have also formed these two committees to cater to the needs. Other communities are blockchain, data center, data protection, government procurement, SME Go Digital, sustainability, talent and capability. New chapter and community will be launched in response to the technology industry continue to grow and the needs. If you would like to know more about SGTech, do write to our SGTech secretariat at membership@sgtech.org.sg. I also like to thank our partner, Kaspersky and Singapore Business Federation for supporting this webinar. I hope that you'll find this information helpful for your organization. I wish you a fruitful webinar ahead. Thank you. Over to you, Jess.
Thank you so much, Daj. Next up, we will have Mr. James Sivalingam, Research Manager at IDC Asia Pacific Services and Security Team. James conducts primary analysis, research, and produce reports with the larger regional research group. With extensive expertise in numerous ICT domains, James' research focuses heavily on the cybersecurity software and services segment. James focuses on market and competitive analysis and user demands and preferences within the ASEAN and Asia Pacific region. Beyond that, he also gathers insights into the current and emerging technology trends and predictions and evolving business models and practices. Before joining IDC, James was a technology journalist reporting on trends and analysis in enterprise, technology, and digital transformation, covering a wide array of verticals in the region. Let us welcome James.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. Let me share my screen quick. Hi, yeah, good afternoon. Welcome. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. As Jess mentioned, my name is James Sivalingam. I work for IDC Asia Pacific, and my team and we track the cybersecurity IT services market as a whole. And I specifically track the cybersecurity market, specifically focusing on ASEAN and slightly wider ASEAN market as well. So, and today, and but those of you guys haven't heard of IDC, what we do, we are a research house that we track the market, we track how the vendors are performing in different segments, as well as the end user sentiment. So throughout my job, I speak to the end user, the tech buyers, organization, SMEs, as well as the suppliers, the big suppliers as well as the small suppliers as well. And with that insights, we try to put together a body of research work that could be leveraged by both tech buyers as guidance, or the vendors as what kind of gaps they should address. What are the challenges businesses are facing in modern times. So for today, by the end of the presentation, I hope to have accomplish this particular mission, right? The first mission that I want to accomplish is to get you guys updated on the IDC FutureScape. So FutureScape is essentially a set of predictions that IDC makes on a yearly basis based on some of the data that we saw last year and what are we foreseeing in the future. And there are 10 prediction for year 2021, but I only gonna talk to you about select few that is relevant to our conversation today. Because if I were to go through all the prediction, it'll take us, maybe half a day. Then finally, second, I'm going to talk about data and how data has emerged as a fuel for future enterprise. And then I'm going to give you an update on where Singapore businesses are standing in this particular data revolution that is the Southeast Asian countries are in the midst of right now. Then I'm going to talk to you about how this affect security, the implication and challenges this new data revolution sort of impose on organization. And finally, just leave you guys a little bit of essential guidance on how organization can basically future-proof themselves in the post-pandemic world. So with that said, this is essentially the five set of prediction, the five prediction that I've picked that I feel that is relevant to our conversation today. So firstly, by 2022, 55% of ASEAN GDP will be digital form, which will drive about 155 billion US dollar in direct investment in digital transformation. So what does that actually mean? This is essentially IT spending. On the back of shrinking economies, this level of robust growth at projection is essentially a silver lining in the dark cloud that was the COVID-19 pandemic. Like most of us aware that in the last 2 quarters, especially, economies everywhere were shrinking. In Singapore, in Malaysia, in Thailand, and that is bad news, right? But what IDC predict is IT services, IT industry as a whole will be one industry that is a shining beacon that will kickstart the economy back in place. Secondly, IDC predicts that 55% of organizations will have a comprehensive digital transformation roadmap. Now, most of us know that Singaporean businesses has been trailblazing with this regard, and other ASEAN businesses in Malaysia and Thailand, they have taken a wait and see approach. Some businesses are doing better than the other, but ultimately they are slightly lagging behind. So as a result, digitalization in the region is not quite uniform, right? So it occurs in silos and pockets, and sometimes within an organization, you'll find that one department is more advanced than the other. But the pandemic served as a wake-up call. Companies are now looking at digitalization and not just a means to an end, but as a critical business element. As such, they will have an end-to-end digitalization strategy with anything from marketing, logistic, all the way to human resource management and so forth. And SMEs is not exempt from this pattern. We are seeing more and more SMEs getting in on the digitalization action. And we'll talk more about that later on as we progress. The third prediction that I have here this afternoon is by 2025, IDC foresees that 60% of leading businesses will start to leverage digital platform. Now, again, Singapore has been trailblazing in this regard. But what we are seeing is this adoption of digital platform will extend to their ecosystem as well. So we're talking tools like ERP, CRM, data management platform, digital payment system, and so forth. Businesses in Singapore already are using it in a greater concentration than their ASEAN counterparts. But as you know, businesses are more connected more than ever. So Singapore business might have a supplier or an ecosystem partner in Malaysia and Thailand, and they will get on board this over interconnected ecosystem as well. And as a fourth prediction, 50% of enterprise will invest heavily in digitalizing employee experience in 2021. Well, this is something that we are very well aware of. We're having this conversation virtually. So workers also will have similar virtual environment, virtual working experience due to travel restriction that was put in place at the height of the pandemic. So trainings and events are delivered virtually, and we are foreseeing this trend to continue way past 2021. Though some of the sectors are starting to go back up and running, that people are going back to offices and whatnot, but it's not happening across the board. Specifically, if you look at some countries like Malaysia, so some of us are still working from home, and we are foreseeing this to carry on for a long time. And because of that, companies will have to invest in creating the digital platform and to ensure that the workforce is ready for such environment. And the fifth prediction essentially ties up the first four that I talked about today, where by 2025, 40% of the organization will have culture optimized for digital transformation, and everything will be driven by data. And so you will start to see leadership changes that reflects this new digital first reality. Far too often, companies, sometimes big companies, they have a very traditional mindset. They depend on once in a generation type leader to make that right call at the right time to grow their business. Not anymore. Today, we have enough data, we have enough tools to create a very, very accurate model that will take the guesswork out of business decision. So business leaders do not have to gamble anymore. So data-driven, forward-thinking leaders will eventually come to helm these big companies, as for even SMEs, to and make decisions based on strong statistic and empirical data, decreasing risk and increasing customer investors confidence as well. Now, from all the predictions that I talked about earlier, one thing remained a common denominator, which is the data. So without data, none of whatever I mentioned would not be possible, right? And so what is the strategic importance of data? How is it different from the way enterprise used to process and analyze data? So data essentially fits into creation of new products and services. Without data, products will remain stagnant, and this could be a competitive disadvantage for companies who do not have a data program or data improvement program rather. And then data also provides valuable customer insights. This could be anything from spending behavior, seasonal preferences, changes in consumption pattern, and so forth. Even some of the big e-commerce platform use this data to a very effective in a very effective manner. Like, I think most of you guys have seen Amazon.com's feature where when you buy something, it'll tell you customers have also bought this and this. So although sometimes you may not even like buy your headphones with the cable, but it already put in your mind that if you buy this, you are better off with this other item. And then that starts a domino effect where you get to sell more item to your customer. And ultimately, what makes all this possible is data. Amazon has a lot of data on the consumer spending pattern, and it knows what kind of demographic, what kind of people spend money on what kind of items, and it markets them accordingly. Oops. And then we have operational data that enables improvement and optimization. So now we're talking about in things like manufacturing setting, where when a company have enough data to have a bird's eye view, it can easily optimize some of its operation. It can easily identify where the wastages are, where the bottlenecks are, and how it can further improve on its current setup. And a lot of big companies have already already been using it for the last 10 years because they had all the tools. And then employee input and telemetry changes resource utilization. Okay, this one is a bit more trickier, but ultimately what it tells you is the working culture of the digital era is different than how it was maybe 10 years ago. When an employee starts a role with a company, he's not just bound by his function to that specific role. Employees are being encouraged to go above and beyond to basically work to their potential. And the one way to get the best out of an employee is employee input and telemetry. When you know a specific employee or group of employees is strong in a certain in a very a variety of tasks, you can basically deploy them to get the best out of them. So essentially what data allows companies to do is enhance their resources they have at hand without further wasting more money and more resources on things that does not really matter. So the key takeaway here is data enables resource optimization by taking away the guessing game. It allows for decision to be made based on empirical data. But like I mentioned, all of this already been deployed in big companies, your Toyotas, your Hondas, your IBMs. But because at some those are the guys who had access to this technology, but now the technology is way more accessible, it's more democratized, it's becoming a strategic imperative for even SMEs to follow suit. SMEs can easily afford some of this technology that I mentioned, data management and things like that, data analytics and whatnot, which they can use as well. So this is like earlier when I spoke about data programs and insights, it seemed very abstract, it seemed very theoretical, but this is actual data. This is the survey that we ran I think end of last year, December 2020, where we asked organizations across APAC what will be your spending priority. This is in the middle of the pandemic, mind you. What will be your spending priority for the rest of 2020 and 2021? And the answer was overwhelmingly data programs. I mean, you would think that they just had a pandemic, they just had a shock to the system. You would think something like business operation and resilience would be their priority. It is one of their priority, but they are more concerned about, they are more forward-looking. They want to get data to further optimize their operation. They want to get data to get a competitive edge over their pool of companies that they are competing with. And this is both pleasantly surprised us, because despite having that hand tied to their back due to the pandemic, they still are looking forward. They still want to further optimize the operation. But having all these data programs is not just all good. I mean, when you're leveraging that much data, when you're collecting and processing data, you're going to have risks that comes with it. And the biggest risk of them all is the cybersecurity risk, right? So if cybersecurity threats is already evolving, and the pandemic has further exacerbated that risk. And this is something that we cannot ignore. So for example, an average cost of a data breach in ASEAN, according to Allianz risk barometer, is about 3.6 billion Sing dollar. And the average number of record per breach is about 22,000. And every now and then, I mean, it's happening way more frequent than we like. We do get news of these high profile breaches where customer data is being outed in the public. Recently, we heard something about LinkedIn and Facebook, and these are something that we don't want to hear, but it happens, and we just kind of close our eyes and move along. But that's not should be the case. But in recent times, there's also disturbing pattern of hackers trying to hack into more critical infrastructure. Like there was one case where the hackers managed to hack into a water supply and added more chlorine to the supply than it required, potentially could be poisoning people who consume the water. And then healthcare is always a critical infrastructure, critical vertical that you want to protect all patient data. But so the nature of the attack has become more insidious in nature. So it's one thing to lose money, which is already bad, but then it's getting more and more serious. So for example, when the pandemic happened, all of us are trying to just survive, and these hackers were busy trying to target companies, and they started sending out malicious domains using the term like corona and COVID, as it is when the population is panicking over a pandemic with uncertainty and everything. So they figured out that this is the best time to attack us, and it's been happening for the last 1 year or so. And then to overcome all of this, there are some challenges that continue to plague organization. But I mean, there are many challenges, obviously, but then you can simmer it down to a few that actually Yeah, you can address one by one. So first and foremost, most organizations, even right now, even in Singapore, it happens in Singapore, it happens in the US, it happens in UK, and especially in the more developing countries as well, that everyone underestimate their risk. They always think whatever they have is whatever controls they have is enough to protect their data. They don't know the value of their data. They don't know the value of their workloads. They think whatever controls they have is fine. They will just go with the flow. If they can just tick all the boxes that the regulators give them, they're fine. And secondly, you have 0-day vulnerability. At the rate of which organizations are modernizing today, they're quickly adapting new technologies, right? But then the security part is often not completely thought through. There's always this bug that wasn't discovered by the developer from the beginning, which will be only discovered later on, and then the developer will send the patch to update that bug. But sometimes hackers figure out this bug before the developer does, right? And when that happens, it's bad news all around. Uh, and then you have the lack of in-house security skills and resources. Singapore it's a global problem. Singapore is doing better than the rest of the ASEAN, but still it's a problem nonetheless. Cybersecurity guys, professional consultants, architect, these are some of the highest paid professionals in the world, and because of that, they are high in demand, but they're very low in supply. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of work to get certified in all the different domains for them to function, and because of that, it's difficult to get people into the to practice cybersecurity. And because of that, a lot of organizations do not have sufficient skills to deal with this evolving threat in-house. And then finally, this is the most egregious one in my book, where management themselves uh, does not focus too much on cybersecurity. It's often relegated as a IT issue, right? Like they'll let the IT head to manage it. But thankfully, this is changing. In more mature environment like Singapore, uh, there are way more CISOs given bigger voices. They are being called into board meetings. They're given bigger budget. So although the tide is changing, but it is still a lot of work to be done to get that security awareness by the upper management. So this is another survey that we ran back in July 2020, again at the height of the pandemic, and we had asked the respondents on how do they think that their company security spending will change during COVID. First, as expected, everyone have said that the security spending is going to increase across the board. That's good news. But when we dive in a little bit closer, we found out that within the different domain of cybersecurity, they would like to secure their remote working environment. So security to ensure remote working emerged as the top in all of APAC. And then when we ask the same question to just a Singaporean participant, it's the same. Security to ensure remote working remain the #1 priority for organizations in Singapore. So, I mean, when it comes to security, I feel that every different element needs to be prioritized. But of course, when you have limited budget, you have to pick one, and you just pick for the one that is most pressing, right? So in this particular point of time, Singaporean organization felt that security to ensure remote working is their #1 priority going forward. So now, what do I mean by security to ensure remote working? There are plenty of technology suite or stack that could help you achieve that. But I want to cover on endpoint security, because I think that's like the simplest thing, the easiest companies could spend on to get a lot of return. So as we all know, when people started working from home, the remote connection started proliferating, right? And it was already happening before that, due to digital transformation, due to bring your own device policies, IoT devices, and so forth. The endpoint connection were already proliferating, but then due to the work from home situation, so people are connecting through their home network. You basically widen the perimeter, the network perimeter, to expand to people's home, to which multiple other connections are connected, right? Like you have devices that have no business being on the internet is connected to the home network. For example, my air conditioner right now is connected to my internet. And because of this will increase the risk, increase the attack surface, increase the multiple points where a potential intrusion can happen. And so that perimeter defense that the organization put in the first place is that you have to ask this question: is it still effective? Is it still relevant in the new era? So, and this this increased connection also will limit the visibility on like who is connecting to the network to the IT admin. The IT admin will have like tons of log to go through, to sift through, to figure out which one is a legitimate connection and which one is noise and which one is potentially malicious. So, and with all of that in mind, isn't it easier just to like lock the gates? Endpoint is essentially the doors to your fortress, and wouldn't it be just simply, just deploy something that you can just lock the gate? And so when we ask this question, what are the top 3 security investment to support your security goals to organization in the APAC? Well, they did select all the right things. Data security and privacy solutions are number 1. Auditing and assessment, something that you cannot ignore, is number 2. But the endpoint solution, which is one of the easiest, one of the most effective solution that they can deploy, is still very much lower on the rank. And this is not a good sign. And then when you look at Singapore only data, they did slightly better. It's a bit up on the list, but still not good enough. Like I talked about, the network's perimeter is now essentially widened. It's everyone's connecting from the public network. So this can just not a good news. So I want to ask the participant who have joined us today, what is your top security investment to support your organization's security goal? I think we can launch a poll right now, Jess, to see what are the response. So if the participant could answer this question, it'll give us some insight that we can discuss further later on in our webinar on your priorities. Okay, we'll give like about 10 more seconds before moving on, and then they get to still fill this up as we go, right? Okay, moving on. We'll get back to the result right now. Wow, data security is still number 1. Okay, we will get back to that answers later on. So, and we also asked another question in that same survey about if they think security is underinvested in their organization. And 90%, 89% of them said yes. That is, unacceptable. But again, it's underinvested because security is one of those things that you can, it's always good to overinvest. So majority of the companies are generally considered underinvesting. But on the bright side, security, they do admit that security is not their core expertise, but they rather engage with a trusted provider to help with security needs. Like I mentioned before, cybersecurity is one of those area where it's become so specialized, so technical, that you require an actual expert to come in and do it for you. It's like you cannot perform your own surgery. You need to go to the doctor. And similarly, cybersecurity is something that you cannot do yourself. You need to find a nice, right security partner, or a partner who can help you automate some of this difficult task. So in that sense, Singaporean organizations are on the right path because they are willing to work with cybersecurity partners. And how we'll talk about like what are some of the things that you want to look for with your cybersecurity partners later on. And then here are some of the challenges that Singaporean organizations face to basically fulfill their cybersecurity strategy. And so security management, the hybrid environment is number 1. And that's a no-brainer because hybrid environment is extremely complex, and managing security in those environments will be difficult. IAM, identity access management, is the second one, and sourcing for good security remains a big problem in even in a mature market like Singapore. And moving on, I'm going to ask that question to the participant here today. What are the top 3 security challenges that you are facing right now at this current day and age? What is the biggest challenge that you have? Jess, can you post the second poll question? There we go. So we'll have about 30 seconds to get the answers. Okay, we will just move right along because we are, we're being cognizant of the time. So we are at towards the end of my session here, that I want to give a little bit of a guidance, IDC guidance on, like, when you go about trying to figure out your security strategy for your organization, what are some of the things that you need to keep in mind, right? So, as we covered, one of the things that you want to go for is have like a trusted partner who can help you, who can guide you, who can kind of tell you what are your risk elements and how they can help you fix it. So look for partners, or focus on simplicity. So enterprise network data protection and recovery operation could get overwhelming, could get complex. Look for partners who can help simplify things for you, simplify things for your staff. Someone who can help manage it in a simple manner that has like a great customer-centric programs, a great dashboard program. Look for partners like that. And then you have to look for partners that can leverage emerging technologies, because we are no longer living in the 90s anymore. We have technology like ML, machine learning, and artificial intelligence have emerged as are more accessible now. They are very affordable, accessible, and you can easily find solutions that have these integrated, future-rich packages to eliminate some of these cumbersome manual processes. And then, like I mentioned earlier, you have to lock the gates. The more gates you have, the more locks you have to buy, right? So when you want to protect your fortress, when you have a lot of endpoints, you need to lock the gates. So you need to invest in some of the endpoint detection EDR tools that are not just EDR, but something that goes beyond that, like advanced EDR tools. And then again, selecting a security partner is like almost like a marriage. You have to think long term. You need to have a partner that can support your growth, partner can meet and mitigate your specific risk. You cannot just go for a partner who can meet your requirements now, and then eventually when you grow the next year, they are no longer able to support you. So that's bad news. You need to figure out someone who can grow with you, or someone who can support your growth throughout. And with that, I'm done with my content for today. I will be happy to take questions from the audience later in the segment at the final, or I can be reached in these particular channels as well. Let's give it back to Jess.
Thank you, James, for your insightful sharing. Next up, we will have, I just want to remind also participants, right, if you have any questions, just, post them in the Q&A box, right, so that we can answer them during the Q&A session after the speaker's presentation. So next up, we will have Mr. Leonard Singh, Head of Pre-Sales APAC at Kaspersky. So Leonard leads the APAC Pre-Sales team at Kaspersky. He is an established technical sales professional with close to 20 years of experience in the IT security industry. He has dealt with and provided pre-sales consultancy for a wide range of products, ranging from the traditional on-premises security solutions, cloud-based SaaS services, advanced threat protection solutions, next-generation endpoint protection, as well as threat intelligence and cybersecurity services. Let's welcome Leonard, where he will be sharing with us on Kaspersky's tips on how to use tech to beef up cybersecurity posture. Leonard, please.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Let me just share my screen. Okay, so hope everyone can see my screen and can hear me well. If not, please leave something in the chat or Q&A, okay? So once again, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Jezri, for that kind introduction. So after that insightful session from James, right, with all the different priorities and, typical Singaporean, right? You like to see what the other person is doing, then you can also follow in the same manner. So I hope that he has given some context over what your competitors, what your peers, what your friends in the industry are doing. Right. So I'll just like to spend some time now to share with you, give you some tips on how you can beef up your cybersecurity posture. Okay. So here are some headlines from the Straits Times, Channel News Asia, actually since February this year. Okay, so this is just some. There's actually a lot more which I've not pulled out, right? And just to give you some background, not some clues over how old I actually am, right? So when I first started out in cybersecurity, you could hardly actually find any news reports in mainstream press on security incidents, right? What is cybersecurity? You open up Straits Times, no such thing. Nobody knew anything. Even in the US, whatever, nothing. However, it seems nowadays, right, not a week goes by without some report of an incident. Okay, so it is really getting mainstream. It is really getting quite out of hand. Oops, sorry. Okay, so just looking at these headlines, what pops out to you, right? So there's a lot of headlines there. So apart from VHive, which I mean, maybe compared to the rest, maybe a smaller size organization, the other names there are all large enterprises here in Singapore. Okay, so just to go into a little bit more for each of them, right? So NTUC E2I, right? This happened back in April, earlier this month, and this was reported. But if you look closely at the story and what actually happened, this breach was due to a third-party vendor. Okay, SIA, National Airline, again, big report there, data of 580,000 SIA customers leaked. But if you go deeper again, this is due to a partner of theirs, SITA, and the information that SIA shares with them for their KrisFlyer loyalty membership. So it's not exactly a direct hit on SIA as well. Singtel, again, this was due to a secure file sharing appliance, which was, there was a 0 day, it was attack there. And so again, Singtel tried in the best of the interest for their customers, do a secure file sharing so that, when you apply for mobile phones, apply for your TV, you upload your IC and everything, it is all secure. So they did the best. But again, it was infected there. So from these three examples here, right, the incidents that happened was not directly due to actions or inactions of these organizations. They did their best, but actually it was due to their trusted vendors, their partners, their third parties over there. Okay, so just why am I talking about this? So just want to highlight, even though your organization may not be a large enterprise, like as large as them, right? Your organization is equally at risk, as the bad guys who want to target you to get to access to these larger guys. Okay, so if you're a smaller organization, you definitely would not have the kind of security budgets which Singtel, NTUC, and SIA have, for example. But you need to do a risk assessment here. Can you afford to be the source of intrusion into your large business partner? Let's say you're depending on your large business partner for a lot of your business. If they find out that their system got hacked, their data got leaked because of you, can you afford to lose this kind of business there? So you still need to take this seriously here. Okay. For the Certis case, okay, so this was due to phishing, right? And all of us in Singapore, we know who is Certis, right? Either their cybersecurity is great, but of course they are known for their physical security, their armed guards carrying all their guns. So they are a security company, but yet they still fell victim to phishing attacks, right? So again, they've got all the necessary security technologies in place, but yet they still can fall victim to this, okay? And finally, for the last example here, let's, VHive. So VHive, furniture retailer, all right? Unfortunately, they are a victim of this new trend we are seeing, which got very popular last year, right? Bad guys there, they will go into an organization, they will do ransomware. Ransomware is nothing new. It's been there for some time. But apart from ransomware now, these bad guys, what they do, they will extract the data before it gets encrypted. And then they will threaten the organization. Hey, if you do not, pay us this amount, A, we will not decrypt your files. B, we are going to leak this information out to the public so everybody can see all of your private information you have on your customers, whatever there. Okay, so this is something that is happening. And nowadays, ransom demands are getting higher and higher. I mean, on one hand, they're getting higher and higher. Just recently, I heard a case where there was some ransomware group. They were very kind. They knew they were targeting SMBs, so they charged them a lower price. So they knew that SM is affordable for the SMBs, right? So they're trying to make it easy for you to pay them, right? But on the other hand, for those large enterprises that they know they can target, they can hold them ransom, they're charging, they're demanding a lot more. For example, last week, if you've been following the news, Quanta, which is a big partner supplier of Apple components, right? I think Apple laptops or something, they were hit by a ransomware attack, and the bad guys there wanted 50 million US dollars, right? 50 million US dollars. Quanta did not take that seriously. They actually started to leak out some of the schematic diagrams. Can you imagine? Last week, there was also this big Apple announcement of all the new solutions, right? And now these bad guys are releasing schematic diagrams of the Apple solutions. And the last I heard about this, and I'm following this, is that the bad guys have given Quanta till 1st of May to decide, are they going to pay or not? So we are all waiting to see what's going to happen there. Okay, so just want to set the context there. So with all of these issues, right, let's first of all talk about why is it important to upgrade your security, right? What's actually going on? And it is all this thing called evasive threats, right? So in recent years, we have seen this trend in cybersecurity where more and more threats, they are not just the simple normal threats, your antivirus will pick it up, it's very easy to detect, prevent using current solutions there. No. All of these threats now, they're becoming more and more evasive, right? They are designed to bypass your existing security solutions over there. And what, as James was saying, right? What's everybody doing now? Endpoints. I'm taking this Zoom call from home. What do I have to protect me? My endpoint. Of course, me in the cybersecurity industry, I've got my own separate home network, my own home security, that's separate, but not many people are like me, such a nerd to go and do all these kind of cybersecurity things to protect my home. So majority of folks is at the endpoint, that's all they have. And these threats are now out there to bypass endpoint protection. Right? And remote working, COVID-19, so Singapore government, up to 75% can go back, but actually how many organizations are really utilizing the full 75%? A lot of them are still being flexible, hybrid working. So this is a trend for now and maybe at least the next few years where you're going to see still a lot much more remote working and all rely on endpoint for security there. Okay. And all these evasive threats, right? They are hard to detect because a lot of the bad guys there are using legitimate tools, right? Because they know that everybody's out there remote working, they will definitely, if I'm for example, myself, if I've got an issue with my laptop, my IT team will do a remote desktop tool to get access to my computer to try to troubleshoot. So this is a legitimate tool. A bad guy out there can simulate the same thing, connect using a remote access tool to a laptop and take control, right? And antivirus, endpoint protection, they are not going to flag and say this is bad because this is a legitimate tool there, okay? And when they do all of these legitimate tools, they become undetected for longer. And when they're undetected for longer, this means the bad guys can go in, explore, they can move from machine to machine, they can find out everything, and this makes the threat even more dangerous there. Okay, so just on this slide here, it says it's based on the survey done by Kaspersky last year, right? Reflecting the average total financial impact of a data breach. So you can see for any data breach, there's a couple of different areas where a company is going to get financially impacted, right? Loss of business PR insurance, there'll be fines, compensations, extra stuff. After you get the incident, you need to, of course, take the necessary corrective action. So you need to maybe get new staff, additional staff, pay for training. You need new infrastructure to fix it as well there. And so for SMB, which in Kaspersky's term is less than 1,000 users, you're looking at around 101, on average, 101,000 US dollars just to as the financial impact here. Okay, on the topics of fines and compensation, if you had read this morning, if you had this Straits Times today, unfortunately, one organization that is linked to the government as well just got hit by the PDPC. They just got hit by a $20,000 fine because of some data breach there. Again, data breach, they did not intentionally do it, but they got fined because they did not take adequate protection there. So again, fines involved there. Okay, for enterprise, a larger enterprise, the number is even larger, right? 10 times larger, 1.09 million per incident. Okay, so I'm sharing this with you just to give you an idea that how these incidents, right, even though it may just sound like incident, it does have deep financial impacts of a company, right? It may even affect the livelihood of an organization there. Okay. And the importance of accurate detection and rapid response. So again, this is data from another report. If we can detect the breach almost right away, it is around 98K, whatever for SMBs. Then if it's a week later, it's 1/3 more, 118K. So of course, the earlier and faster you can detect, remediate, respond to this, the better. And of course, if you can remediate it even before they actually get successful attack, right? Then this number will approach 0, which is the ideal case where everybody is aiming for there. Okay, so most of you, I guess, IT line, you're thinking, or you're managing your IT for your organization or your own company, right? You're looking at this. So have you ever wondered, right? Actually, am I under attack now, but I don't know it? Since Leonard James is saying, there's all these data threats out there. Leonard is saying there's these new threats where, you're trying to go evasive, undetected. So am I under attack now, but I don't know it, right? Or let's say now I found a malware in my system. This thing looks strange, but what exactly did it do? Yeah, it flagged this one thing, but is it only this one thing, or actually what is the full impact there, right? Or of course, some of you may be wondering, if only I had world-class security experts, working on my behalf, then I can outsource some of this to them and help. Yes. And the final one, this one here is also very popular. What if my employee did not open that email, didn't share their password, or didn't do something, right? So what's on the slide there? Why didn't Jake know how not to open that PDF? Okay, so bear in mind, this is coming from my HQ marketing. In Singapore context, I would say, why did my employee fall for that Singapore Pools email, which says that he struck 8 million Toto and click on this link to claim your prize, right? I'm a normal user, 8 million, I will click and then I get infected there, right? So have you ever wondered all of this here? Okay, and so to address all of these questions, right, is you need to develop your detection and response, right? Protection, automatic protection, all that is just not enough anymore. Okay, so you need to be able to use advanced detection methods to identify even the evasive threats, right? Yes, this is a remote desktop tool, but it's not being used by the correct people, or it's being used in a strange manner, in a strange time. Okay, advanced detection, you'll be able to pick up these kind of things, right? You need to be able to, as James was saying, right, there's a shortage of security experts there. So you either need to train up whatever security experts or IT team you have there, or get external expertise to help your team to analyze these threats to better over there. Okay, and of course, you need to be able to respond to these threats quickly and efficiently. Right, it is just as bad if you can detect, you can see the threats happening, you're looking at all your files slowly getting encrypted, and you have no way to respond, right? That is like a nightmare scenario. I can see it happening, I can't do anything there, okay? And of course, in the first place, prevent these threats from reaching your infrastructure, right? By you plugging one of the biggest holes in your organization security, what I said earlier, where employees' mistakes and their unawareness of cybersecurity risk, right? So address the end user part there. Okay, so how can we fight against these threats here, right? So these threats need to be addressed at multiple stages, right? So you start with the penetration stage. You need to stop these bad guys from being able to enter your network. So combination of activities there, of course, security awareness to your end users, make sure that they know what's good, what is not good, have all of your security foundations in place, right? So I'm not saying that's because endpoint protection does not trap all of the threats, do not use it. No, this forms a foundation. You need to have your basic endpoint protection that will prevent all your commodity threats. And also you must reduce your surface attack area, right? Harden your machine, lock down. This user should not be able to access certain things. Do not allow them to do that, right? If they're out on VPN, do not allow them to enter a very sensitive area or access to a sensitive information without additional authentication, for example, there. Okay, so that's on the penetration. And to supplement this, of course, to supplement the bad guys not being able to do the installation of the malware and routing, which is to gain persistence and to move things, there's other things which needs to be done, which you can read from the slide there, right? And as mentioned by James earlier, this is where endpoint detection and response, right? EDR plays a very big part as well for this. Okay, so security awareness, again, I mean, for some of you, I recognize some of your names in attendance list, so this may not be the first time you heard of me, but whenever I talk about awareness, right, I always touch on this point. Organizations can invest money to buy the latest, greatest hardware, software, security solutions. But one area that cannot be patched or cannot be upgraded, right? You cannot just go and apply a patch, reboot, and then all the knowledge is there, are the end users, right? End users, if only it's so easy to patch them, that's the best, but it's not. So end users and bad guys know that. So end users are still one of the major vulnerabilities where that they are targeting now. They are going to prey on human nature of greed, uncertainty, fear, right? So if you look at the phishing mails, you'll see a lot of them are either targeting how the person can get rich quick, like what I was talking about, Singapore Pools, 8 million total, you have won, click here to claim your prize. Or when they talk about fear, right? COVID-19, okay, this vaccine doesn't work. Why don't you click here to get more information? Or in other overseas countries where vaccination is not so easy to be gotten, oh, you get early vaccination, click on this link to register yourself, and these are all fake. And this is just preying on the end users there. Okay, but having said that, and again, touching on what James was talking about, security awareness, right, is not just for end users. We need this security awareness to extend to management as well. Management needs to set the correct culture for the rest of the employees to follow, right? If you see the boss not behaving properly or whatever and doing all this risky stuff, you can't expect the employees to follow there, okay? But not only in that area, management is, of course, the guys who need to set the necessary budgets and attention, right, focused towards cybersecurity. So management, security awareness for management is also a very important area there. Okay, and finally, of course, your IT generalists, your IT help desk, your IT team, they also need to know to put security first, right? Not just fix the problem without actually knowing what's the actual root cause, because there are a lot of bad activities there which could pose as a normal IT problem, but actually it's, there's underlying security implications there. Okay. Next, as mentioned earlier, you need to be able to reduce the attack surface. So like what I'm talking about, system hardening, vulnerability assessments, patch management. So I won't go through too much of this in the interest of time, right? But one area that I want to point out there is this thing called adaptive anomaly control. You need to be able to balance between security and usability. It's no point you say, okay, I block all JavaScripts, and then actually you have your, part of your business is for developers, you need to develop scripts and you can't even do that. So you can't do their work, right? Or you block all Excel files with macros, your accounting team cannot work. So you need to make sure that there's a balance and adapt. So there must be some adaptive control that is tied to user behavior there. Okay. At the detection stage of, I think I mentioned about this, right? You need to have your foundations in place, right? And then this will help reduce all of the mass commodity threats so that whatever seeps through after that now will then, be more important, and you can have proper visibility into that, right? And just one thing I just want to mention about the line over there, automated threat hunting, right? So threat hunting now is something which, in my opinion, you cannot run away from it. Right. If you go back in end of last year, the SolarWinds FireEye issue there, they had big issues there, but it was only because FireEye did manual threat hunting to find something that didn't appear right. That's how they managed to identify they were breached. Then they went to do their root cause analysis. That's how they managed to link it to the SolarWinds incident. And this is FireEye, right? They've got all the security posture in place there, and they still had to do threat hunting to discover what are all these issues that's occurring there. They may have bypassed this. Okay. As part of threat hunting response, you need visibility and analysis. So you can only know and take action on the things that you see. So of course, make sure that you have to be able to see what's going on there. And again, if you do not have the necessary resources to manage this, reach out to your trusted partners, your trusted vendors for expert help, right? They'll be able to help with the analysis and suggested response. Okay, just coming to the end here. So here is just a simplified architecture of the solution from a Kaspersky perspective, right? So most of these components are managed through a single console, with whether it can be on cloud or on-premise here. So how this works is that we offer a variety of solutions. Of course, for the end user point of view, we are offering Kaspersky security awareness. For the endpoint, the machine level, we have got, of course, our basic endpoint protection there, but this is supplemented with our sandbox to find all these zero-day new emerging threats where you can automatically analyze that. At the same time, we have got our EDR optimum solution that plugs into the same endpoint solution that gives you automated response, more visibility, and root cause analysis. Of course, if you do not have sufficient IT people, that's where, if you look at the top of the slide, that is where we have our MDR, Managed Detection and Response, where we will help you to monitor all the telemetry that the endpoint is picking up, and we will then offer advice to your security administrator, your IT team. Okay, we've detected an intrusion, we've detected something, this is what you need to do. And we all of this is as part of a service over there. Right? We do automated threat hunting there. Okay. And last slide, I just wanted to highlight the entire portfolio of solutions that Kaspersky has to offer, right? So we base our portfolio on a 3-stage approach, right? From stage 1, commodity threats, stage 2, evasive threats, and finally stage 3 for targeted attacks. So we cover different areas at the different levels, right? All depending on what your organization is, what you're ready for, right? If you are a small organization, you don't have a dedicated security team, there's no point me telling you about go for expert security and do all of this, right? So we will tailor it according to the levels there. What I just spoke about, our optimum, EDR optimum is part of stage 2 for evasive threats. But again, I mean, if you've got any additional questions or you want more information on this, do not hesitate to reach out to us and we'll get back to you on this. Okay, I think I'm quickly running out of time, so that's my last slide. So with that, I would like to thank you for your attention and listening to me, and I will hand it back to Jezri. Over to you, Jess.
Thank you so much, Leonard, for your presentation. So please stay on the screen. Now we would like to invite Dutch and James back onto the screen to join Leonard for the fireside chat and Q&A session. So this session will be moderated by Dutch. For the audience out there, if you have any questions, please use the Q&A function and submit them. Dutch, over to you.
Thank Jess, and thank everybody that's still staying with us. We're a bit ahead. So yeah, let us look at it. Thanks for this IDC, right, James, right? I believe that data is very important. And in life, right, we take as much information as possible to make a decision. And again, that IDC really put in the crystal ball, right, to understand what is the prediction for 2021. And with such prediction and understanding pre-COVID and post-COVID coming, what are the solutions out there that Kaspersky really can comprehend above of it, right? So let's start with some questions that I want to highlight, right? Being a very layman, I think this one I'm going to pose to Kaspersky. Okay, Leonard, this is for you. Because being in securities, right, I still heard a lot of people asking ourselves or asking your colleagues or friends in the cybersecurity field, hey, I already have an antivirus software running on my computer. Why do I need all these additional stuff that Leonard has mentioned? So complex. I thought I'm secure. So Leonard, I just pass it to you. Okay,
yeah, thanks, Dutch. So I think as part of my presentation, I touched a little bit about this already. So as we know, right, now as what we are seeing, right, a simple antivirus is no longer sufficient, right? To put it as an analogy, right, if you recall a few weeks ago, due to all this COVID situation, the government came out to say that we need to adopt this Swiss cheese model. I don't know whether if you guys remember seeing that article. So what this Swiss cheese model is talking about, you know, Swiss cheese, there's a lot of holes in the cheese, right? So one layer of security will be one slice of Swiss cheese. If you can do multiple layers and make sure that the holes of the cheese does not align, that is where you're not going to allow the bad guys to go in, right? So that's what they're doing for COVID, where they have the Swiss cheese model, different layers, each of them detecting different things. So when you put all the layers together, you're now no longer a Swiss cheese. You're now actually the singles cheese, where it's one whole solid block and it can't go through. So I guess this is an analogy I like to give on why you still need more than just an antivirus solution there, right? It is to factor in for all of these other threats that may bypass some of the detections there. Yep.
Yeah, I think it's a good using a cheese to really explain that. And can see that I from IDC, right, from what James has just shared, right, is that there's so much complexity right now in the cyber attack or threat, right? Or phishing, threat actor is around, ransomware, all coming along. So yeah, I believe the cheese pin that really help to understand a little bit more on this aspect. Okay, so I want to pose another question, also quite a Singaporean question with SMB style. I only have a few of us running this company, or a few of us running this IT company. How can I manage so many new solutions? First, I was thought about only have one antivirus, right? Oh, I need a big piece of cheese. Right now, okay, I look back. I only have a few guys handling in IT in my organization. So how should I manage all these new solutions out there in the market?
Yep. And I guess the question is for me, continuation there, right? So in this aspect, we recognize this. I think a lot of other security vendors as well recognize this area, right? That for large enterprises, yes, you can throw many solutions there. They will have the, the adequate experts there to try to do this. But for the smaller organizations there without this support of such large teams, that is where vendors, resellers, partners, service providers, we're all coming together to try to offer this as a service as well, to help all of the smaller organizations there. Yes, you have two IT team. The bulk of your business is not in cybersecurity. You are there to make business by selling clothes, by selling food, whatever. Outsource it, right? Get a partner, get a trusted partner, like what James was saying, get a trusted partner who can scale with you. Right now, you have only one restaurant. Next time you build up a whole chain, 100 restaurants, make sure the partner can scale with you to be able to continue to help to secure you, do this additional security monitoring there, right? So don't just think that you have to rely on this on your own, right? Make sure that you can find partners, outsource this to the experts, do your due diligence, make sure that they are the correct partner for you. They've got the necessary abilities, capabilities there, and make it a partnership. Don't make it like a vendor kind of a customer kind of thing, right? They are your business partner, you're a business partner, go together there. Yeah.
Great. Thanks again, Leonard. I think it's well explained. Another audience was posing a question called YK. YK, I just read out your questions. These were addressed to James, IDC. Will you elaborate, James, more about this machine learning? Is affordable and is accessible. The understanding from YK is that the ML, artificial intelligence, right, requires sophisticated model and computing power to adapt with different threats. The overall cost to serve is not scalable to done in-house. Is it his to share your part whether this is his or her understanding? James.
On mute, James.
I got pretty excited there. Sorry. So actually, thanks for the question, Dutch. And YK, Mr. Lee, however you want to be, YK, you're not wrong. It is ML and AI. But the key word that you mentioned there is in-house. Doing in-house anything is expensive, and sometimes will be the barrier that we cannot break through, right? So specifically when it comes to AI and ML, okay, there's two things we can look at it. So if you're talking about using AI and ML for your data analytics program, you doing it in-house for SME, it's not feasible. You need to go to the big guys, the Googles and the AWS, who has in their arsenal a plethora of data analytic tools that uses their AI and ML machine to help you give you that data that you want. Right. So let's say you're a company that want to deploy or want to leverage these data analytics tools. You can start a GCP account, AWS, Azure. I'm not advocating for them, but I'm just telling you that there are tools available. And then for security, using ML and AI for threat hunting capabilities, and to go through a pool of threat intelligence, you want to filter through and see what's applicable to your organization. You have people like Kaspersky, the advanced endpoint detection that Leonard talked about earlier has ML, AI elements in threat hunting as well. And so you don't have to outright buy the technology. You can use it using these partners who already bought the technology, already integrated to their platform, to their solution, and then you can just gain the benefit of it instead of like investing your computing power and your resources into it. You just use it as a service model. I hope that answers your question.
Thanks, James. I think you did, right? Yeah. I just want to pose another questions to these Leonard. I think this is quite interesting, right? I heard a lot of training, skill future. Government is throwing out a lot of training about cybersecurity awareness. We have an agency called CSA, and let's say I tried for some awareness training for my user, but how could we ensure that the user is understood and remember the training? It's just not a magic wang, right? Just, hey, you go for training, guys. You need to remember and you need to practice it. Any suggestion from Leonard?
So just to broaden that as well, right? So I'm sure many of us, when we, in all corporations, right, need to go through all of this online training. Most of us will just go, another online training. You just click next. Finish already. Okay, great. Got the certificate. HR wouldn't bother me anymore. So I think cybersecurity awareness training has also evolved, right? Where it is not just pure online training, one-way delivery. So there are a lot of security awareness programs out there. For example, talking Kaspersky, right? We have got this thing called gamified assessment. So we will start off the end users on a game, right? So they'll go in, they'll game, a little bit like gambling, where there'll be different scenarios, and then they will bet to say, okay, how sure am I? I'm very sure I'll bet 3 coins that my answer is correct. Or I'm not so sure, I'll bet 1 coin. So they'll go through a game with them, and as part of this is actually an assessment to assess where they are, how they are. And then after that, we have another thing called adaptive training, adaptive online training, where we would then deliver this. They will take it as part of the course, right? The training adapts. So intermittently, they'll ask questions, and based on how the user answers, they'll throw in more training, or they'll say, okay, you totally know it. They'll back off, and then you can finish it faster. And then they'll do an assessment again. So this is one area. And after that, of course, at regular intervals, you can schedule simulated tests, phishing tests, whatever, send a phishing mail. Do you get hit? Do you not get hit? And from there, again, back to circle. There's this group of users always fall for phishing attacks 6 months after maybe they didn't pay attention. Assign them the training again, do that again, right? To find out what's going on. So I think it is more than just a one-way thing now. It's become more adaptive, more picking up what is the weaknesses, where's the strength, and then not focusing so much on their strength because it becomes boring for them, and then just focuses on the weaknesses there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice. And okay, because the time is overrun slightly, so we want to keep it at 2:50. Probably I just want to open up for James and Leonard, right? Any last advice or things that you want to share with the audience? Maybe we start with James first.
Okay, I'm just going to give a standard advice that I always give to end users. And when it comes to security, there's no such thing as overinvesting. Overinvesting is good. So cybersecurity is one of those things that a lot of people will try to approach cybersecurity as what's my return of investment. But the way I look at cybersecurity is putting a lock in your house. When a country like Singapore invests in its armed forces, it does not try to justify the return on investment. So, and cybersecurity has to be looked upon like that. But what you can do is get a partner or who can develop a tool to properly assess your risk. So if you are afraid of overspending, properly do this assessment, like what kind of risk you're exposed to, and address those risks. If you can find a partner who can do that for you effectively, then you're good. But a lot of people will come and ask me, is there such thing as an overkill? Yes, there is, but the chances of you overkilling on your security is very minor. So for me, it's better to be safer than sorry. And again, like I mentioned, the recurring theme of the entire session is there are technologies out there will help you be much safer. Deploy it, use it, leverage it. Now's the time.
Cool. Yeah, James. How about Leonard?
So I guess the key thing I want to bring across to all of you listening in here, right, is that bear in mind now, cybersecurity has got major impacts to your bottom line, to your revenue, to your organization's livelihood, right? We have seen overseas all that companies have gone bust, gone out of business because of a cyber attack incident there. Can you afford to have this, right? So as James was saying, there are a lot of tools out there. Some of them are really targeted enterprise, but vendors, we are realizing this, we are trying to get it easier, we're trying to get it smaller. So do not be afraid that, you do not have the budget, you do not have the skill sets, right? There are people out there who can help you, right? Reach out to SG Tech, for example, Cybersecurity Chapter, reach out to them, they can also help, right? They can offer advice, reach out to vendors like us. So just make sure cybersecurity is top of the mind, right? I mean, of course, you must be profitable, but next line, definitely, right? With cybersecurity can have a bad impact if you're hit badly there. That's what I want to highlight there.
Thanks, Anna. I think it's a balance that make it, right? It is a balance to look at it. Yeah. Before I pass it to Jess, I think I just want to share a little bit on my own capacity. I think Kaspersky is really a good partner, and a lot of testimony out there and references that he helping a lot of companies to beef up their security posture. And James for IDC, previously my job is an international bank, so we use a lot in IDC survey, the analytics, your prediction as well. I think well done both guys. Before that, I just want to say happy Labor Day to all the audience and all these on the screen. Hope you have a very good weekend ahead for Labor Day. Jess, I pass it to you, Jess.
Thank you very much to all our speakers again, and we'd like to thank our partner, Kaspersky, right, for supporting this webinar. Let me share, before I end, I would just like to share some other stuff, right? So we would like to share with you this free training provided by Kaspersky. Kaspersky Automated Security Awareness Platform is a holistic security awareness solution, a new approach to online educational programs. It delivers valuable knowledge and builds real cyber hygiene skills. It ensures that customers will profit from human-related incident loss reduction by up to 90%, and with fully automated awareness platform taking just a few minutes to set up and manage. Some of the key models that will be covered include email security and anti-phishing, web browsing, passwords, social networks and messengers, PC security, mobile devices, confidential data, personal data, and GDPR. So if you wish to access to this free training, simply click yes on the survey form which you will be directed to after you leave this webinar, or you can actually click on the QR code here that you see on the screen to access the survey form. So we'd like to invite the audience here to also help us complete this short webinar survey so that we can create relevant content and improve for our future sessions. We would also like to share that upcoming, we have another webinar in partnership with Western Union's Business Solutions on partnership opportunities to grow your business. So in this webinar, you will be able to hear from industry experts on new market outlook and growth opportunities in the telecommunications and tech sectors, growing your tech business through partnership, when, why, and how to enter into a new market. And also case studies on how Western Union Business Solutions have partners with ICT companies worldwide to create new revenue streams for their business. So you may scan the QR code here to register if you are interested, right? So once again, we would like to thank everyone for attending. So like what Dutch has mentioned, we hope everyone has a great Labor Day weekend ahead. And we hope to see you soon, right, in our next session. Take care and stay safe.